How to navigate complexity with project management. My name is Guilherme and I'm a project management expert. I help professionals to become successful project managers. How I do that can be in several different ways. Sometimes I help people and companies with training to helping them develop their skills. Sometimes I help with specific mentoring someone, helping this person to develop their skills, to create a plan on how to develop their skills to their career. Sometimes I help them to organize a challenging project to make sure that they can get the best outcome possible there. Sometimes I provide consulting for companies. So it can be in several different ways. But as long as your goal is to develop your project management skills, my goal is to support you in your journey. Don't forget that this content here is part of the warm up for the Project Management Summit. The Project Management Summit, it's a free event I'm going to make that I'm going to teach you the initial steps to develop, to learn project management, the initial steps to develop your project management skills to be successful as a project manager, or if you want to implement in your company, of course, they also can do that. Just a nice reminder that this is the episode number three of the warm up. So if you haven't seen the other ones, go and check it. The topic I'm going to discuss today here is how to navigate complexity with project management. Oh, first, before I need to give some background on what do I mean by complexity, you might have heard it on the VUCA model. VUCA is an acronym that stands for volatility, uncertainty, complexity, ambiguity. So all the companies they are in this VUCA world there out there, meaning that all the companies and everybody, including you and me, all companies and all people, they are subject of volatility. That something unexpected can change. Uncertainty because yeah, there's a lot of uncertainties there for the future. You never know what's going to happen, and complexity, of course, because there's a lot of interconnected parts. For example, if you're working in a company, there's a lot of different the departments interconnected. There's the interdependency with a company and a supplier, interdependency with a company and a possible customer, and all those things they build complexity and a lot of times ambiguity because you have uncertainty and you have something that's unclear that you cannot say 100% if it's like their direction A and B. That's what's called the VUCA word. So in general, everything that we do involves this VUCA word, this VUCA model that's volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguous. Why I'm talking about that? So complexity it's there, you want it or not. Of course, if you are working, for example, in a production environment, you are still exposed to the same vocal word there, but sometimes your level of complexity it can be reduced. Let me give you an example that to try to lend the information a bit better. Why I'm saying that sometimes the operation, the complexity in your operations might be less uh, less challenging is not the right reason because I know that operating a company is not an easy thing, and if you are working to production, you also have plenty of challenges. But sometimes you have more uncertainty if you are operating a project than, for example, if you are working in a manufacturing environment. Why? Let me just give as an example a control chart. Basically, a control chart, you have an upper limit, as you can see here, you have a lower limit, and that's used to control a specific process. But why I'm talking about a control chart when I start talking about complexity? Well, because if you are working, for example, in a manufacturing environment, you already have an upper limit defined, you have a lower limit defined, so you need to control your process in this range. You have a process window already to operate. If you're working a project, even though the project might be in the manufacturing environment, usually you need to define the upper and lower limits. So you don't have any window. That's one of the things that you have to define. That's of course why you have higher uncertainty and higher complexity. That's what I mean by that. I'm not saying that operations they don't have complexity, but they have it. But sometimes in a very in different degrees as you might have in a project there. And going back to the VUCA word there, but what creates this volatility there? I talk about already some interdependency, but for example, there's all other type of volatility that can affect you and your company. For example, a few years ago, I was leading a program, and one of the suppliers in Germany had a factory that was completely destroyed by a flood. Something that's completely unexpected, and even if you think about Germany, that's not something that you would expect it, but it happens because that's just the world that we live in. Like the nature, we cannot control nature as much as we tried. It's impossible to predict everything that's going to happen. That might be raining, there might be a flood, or might be another weird stuff that happened. For example, in the past years, we had COVID. No one would ever expected something like that to happen, but we were all in lockdowns. We had to change the way to adapt, and the entire pandemic basically kind of even changed our entire our working relationship. A lot of companies they are not back to 100% work in the office, and a lot of companies now they have what they call the hybrid way of work, which is a complexity pop up and you need to adapt it. So there's an uncertainty, you need to adapt it. But when you look for in a project, for example, part of the complexity that you see in this project is focusing on now in a project, of course, you see the different areas, or I'm going to call knowledge areas just to refer for the project management body of knowledge from the PMI. You have the different areas like scope, cost, time, quality, resources, communication, stakeholder, procurement, risks, and I'm forgetting something there. But and integration. Then we have the 10 knowledge areas there. What does it have to do with the complexity? Well, if something in the scope change, that also affects your timeline, your cost, that will also affect your resource, that might affect your quality, that might affect your customer, which is one of the stakeholders, that might affect your supplier. So all those interdependencies there create a very complex environment. Where so basically what if you are starting a project, what you want to do or what you do or what you need to do as a project manager there. You need to gain clarity how you're going to move forward. Because if you are starting a project, you have a goal, and then how you're going to achieve this goal. Then you need to plan it, and you need to break down this goal in smaller pieces and organize it with a team in a way that you can take steps to develop. And of course, whatever you're doing there, you're going to need to adapt to make sure that you can achieve this goal. And might be your goal is to launch a new product, might be that your goal is to create a new service. Might be your goal is to build some infrastructure. Your goal is to build a new house. All those things already, the complexity in the project already going to be there for the different knowledge areas, um, for the different team members. Every person is unique. Then you can imagine all the interactions that we have among each other. They might be very unique, meaning that you do not know exactly how to expect. If you say something, you might not be sure how the other people will perceive or how the other people to understand. Then you might have conflict and so on. And this is all the complexity that you can have in a type of project. So, oh, and of course, because one of the reasons because of that, if you look on the PMBOK, again, I'm referring to the PMBOK because it's probably one of the most famous, if it's not the most famous, project management standard that you're going to see there. PMBOK stands for Project Management Body of Knowledge from Project Management Institute. That's why you see there complex. It's one of the project management principles. But what does it have to do with anything with my point in the beginning that how you're going to navigate complexity with project management? Well, because if you develop your project management skills there, let's assume that have been working there, you have been studying, and then you are developing your knowledge in project management, you're developing skills in project management. What's going to happen? You're going to create also this skill to learn how to navigate complexity. And of course, again, that's why complexity is one of the project management principles because that's one of the things that you need to deal with in your day to day. And what happened is a lot of people and a lot of companies they are not used to deal with complexity. Although the complexity is always there, that's why I'm talking about the VUCA word. This is always there for all the companies, for everybody. Not everyone is exposed to complexity in a regular base as you are in a project, executing a project, as you are while working as a project manager. So just because you have been exposed to much more complexity, and you need to you need to handle that, you need to learn how to handle that. You're going to have risks, you're going to have issues, you're going to have conflict with your team, you're going to have maybe a stakeholder that's not correctly engaged with your projects. So you need to learn how to adapt. You need to learn how to react to this volatility, this uncertainty, this ambiguity environment, and you need, based on that, to define actions that you can take to continue progress to a goal. So if you take this apart, if you develop your project management skills and if you do it in the right way, that also will help you to navigate the complexity that you're going to see in your life and in everything else. For example, that's why I mentioned and that's why project management is a very valuable skill, including one of the top skills for a manager. And if you go up, of course, one of the top skills that you want to have for a director or even for a CEO. Not that as a manager, not that the manager or the director or the CEO, they're going to necessarily manage a project themselves, not necessarily they are going to execute a project themselves. But this is the kind of skill because you are working with the complexity. So what you are going to do it? Uncertainty is always there. Uncertainty is always connected with risk. So as a project management, one of the skills that you need to develop is risk management, which is basically anticipate probable events that might create issues into your project. So you are already learning this as a project manager how to handle this VUCA world. Of course, it can be very different levels. If you have a smaller project with a small team, the level of complexity that you face might be different, for example, than if you have a project that has thousands of people involved on that one. But even though in a small project, the degree of complexity will already be there. And you already need to know how to react to that. What happens is a lot of people that they do not face this complexity and this uncertainty very often, they are kind of, they do not know how to react into those things. For example, let's assume there's someone working into a production environment. Something that something happened, there's something outside, out of control in their process. Sometimes people they don't know how to react that, and that's the case. That's so much the case that usually problem solving it's one of the skills that companies they invest a lot to develop. Why? Because this is a problem caused by a VUCA world, a world full of uncertainty, volatility, and so on, and people they do not know how to react in those situations. And if you are already working with project management, you are learning how to react to that. On the top of that, if you are working with project management, you are developing with something that's very important to deal in a VUCA world like that. That's organization. Why organization? Let's see that you have a goal or you have a problem on there, and a lot of people they get overwhelmed, and it's common if you get overwhelmed if you have a goal that's too big or a problem that's too big. But what you learn to do it in a project, break down these in smaller problems so you can tackle it in a group and you can tackle it in a team. You learn how to align a team in an environment. And not saying that when you talk about team alignment and team discussions, I'm not saying that you're not going to find conflict, because conflict is also part of the complexity that you face while executing a project, because people see different things, different opinions. They are going to diverge how they see exactly the same things and how to proceed. But as a project manager, you need to learn how to overcome all those challenges. So we are learning every day in every project how you are going to how you are going to overcome complexity. So we are not going to get paralyzed on something like that. One example, what I see people trying to start to work with project management. Sometimes people they do not know how to start work with project management, which is not a problem if you do not know. Of course, nobody was born knowing anything. So if you do not know, you need to learn. So what's the first step that you need to take? Well, your first step you need to take is start to getting information to be able to kind of understand this environment to move forward. It's of course that hopefully that's also why I'm doing this, because I want to help people to further develop their project management skills. But a lot of people, because of this big goal there, they get paralyzed. They do not know how to progress, and they get stuck. They think, for example, I've recently talked with someone that say I want to work with project management, but I don't have project management experience. And for all the positions, you need or you must have project management experience. And I told the person, no, you don't need to have project management experience for all the positions. And the person replied, yeah, you need it. Even though, of course, he is not sure, he did not know it. What I did is very simple. I just enter my LinkedIn. I send the person two positions. Say here are two positions. Took me 5 minutes to find that that experience is not required. But why this kind of thing happens? Because we deal with this volatile, uncertain, complex, and ambiguity board there. So people see this big goal, they get paralyzed, they do not know how to do it, and they start to make assumptions instead of taking steps to confirm the information that they have or to possibly learn more about the problem or about the challenge or about the goal they are trying to solve. But that's a challenge by itself, but you need to start to overcome all those things. And all those types of challenge, and of course I'm talking about complexity and project management, and I'm giving you examples that I discuss every day with people, like people saying, I want to work with project management. Then I ask them, have you started to look for positions? And the answer for a lot of people it's no. I want to go for a certification first. Then I ask why, and they gave me the same answer, because you need a certification to start to work with project management. And I tell them, no, you don't need it. It's not a requirement for an entry level position to have a certification. And most of people they do not start to work with project management with a certification. So what's that? Again, they see this VUCA word out there. They have this wish or this goal, whatever you want to call it. If you don't have an action plan, if you're not taking actions, for me it's more a wish than exactly a goal. And they start to make assumptions, and they take the complexity of the word that's already there and they make something even bigger of that. So that's something that's very important when you are dealing with complexity, and that's something of course you end up learning if you are working with project management, if you are developing your project management skills, that you should not make assumptions. A lot of times what you're thinking of might not be what the facts are showing to you. And so being a factual based person, a data driven person there, it's quite important. And of course, if you are working with project management, if the environment start to force you to go into that direction. That's why if you learn project management, if you start to develop your project management skills, that can be very valuable for your entire career. That will be very valuable for your company, because then you start to stop making assumptions and creating a lot of different scenarios and say, okay, what do we want to achieve here? Let me give you the example here of finding a job in project management. Just for make it simple. It could have been a project, of course. Say, I want to work with project management. Okay, have you start to check what are the requirements for that? And I guarantee for you, most of people they do not take the first step there, and they start to make the assumptions about the experience, about the certification. Sometimes they have limiting beliefs in why they cannot make it, and this starts to build on, and they of course they get paralyzed there. But people they do that of course for their personal life, but in general how they react in a working environment, it's very similar, because in the end we are people, right? You're not going to have a reaction in your personal life, and you're going to be 100% of your the opposite in in your work life, if you want to say like that. In the end, there's only one life. You cannot break down like that. But you're not going to have all those different reactions there. That's even why I tell people, like during my development programs, that goal setting is important. Goal setting is a skill that you need to have, that you can start to develop in your personal life, but in the end, it will be required if you have a project. Because if you have a project that's not with the proper goals, the goals are not clear, and the goals are not understood, and you do not know how to start, or you don't need to know everything. Project management is a team sport, and you do not work with your team to break down those goals, you end up not progressing. But again, so working with project management will force you to develop several other skills that will help you to navigate complex in the world, the complexity that you see in the world, or it will help you to navigate this VUCA world. Or it can be that if you are working with project management, it will help you to develop your leadership skills. It will help you to develop your communication. It will help you to develop your problem solving, how you organize things, how you're going to set goals, how you're going to plan around that, how you can reach a team agreement on that one. And of course, because I talk about working with project management, there's a point that's very important here. I'm not talking when I talk about working with project management, I'm not talking about just working and doing exactly the same thing without learning anything with that. Because this is a point that's very important here. Because if you are working with project management, and if you have been doing that through the years, but you are not learning in this process, just because you have a lot of years doing that does not mean that you are improving doing that. It's and so if I make an analogy here, I have a driver's license right now for 20 years. So I have been driving for more than 20 years. Does not mean because I'm doing that for more than 20 years that I can drive a Formula 1 car, because I do not have the skills to drive a Formula 1 car. Besides, I have been driving for 20 years because I have not been developing my skills like that. Maybe, of course, I like to believe that I'm a better driver than the first time I drove it, and for sure that's the case. But you start, of course, when you start, you run a bit, you learn a bit, and you kind of stabilize, and you reach a plateau. And then, like happened with my driver's license, that's more or less where I stayed. I'm not continue to develop my skills as a driver that can put me in a competition, that can put me in Formula One, for example. Works exactly the same way with project management. It's important that if you start to work with that, of course you're going to have a learning curve in the beginning, but at some point you might start to reach plateaus. So it's important that you don't get stuck in those plateaus. Because if that's the case, you're not continuing to develop your project management skills, and that would be a problem. And that's one of the reasons, of course, when I talk about project management, I talk about going for studying, for example, if you are working with construction, construction always use, or most of cases for construction, use waterfall. But have you thought of learning Agile? Have you thought of learning Scrum? Why it's not going to be used? But yes, but that will give you different insights that will help you to start to ramp up again your knowledge. That will start to help you to leave the plateau of knowledge that you do there. You are working with IT. Say, you are a Scrum Master there. Have you thought of learning waterfall? Seeing what are those technology areas, how they interact, why they're important, what kind of tools they have there. But they are going to say, yeah, but I use Scrum. I'm not going to use that. Are you sure? Because again, if you're learning different things, it helps you to get out of this plateau. Otherwise, you're going to stay there and stay, okay, I learned Scrum. I'm a Scrum Master. I'm staying there. After, of course, you're not, after probably 6 months, 1 year, but at some point you are going to reach a plateau where you're going to get stuck on that one. Then, of course, if that's the situation, just because you're working with project management, you are not continuing to develop your skills. So you're not continuing to develop yourself to handle or to face this VUCA world. Because at some point things are always changing, and that might be that you have a problem for yourself soon enough, because the world might change it. Maybe they are going to look for different types of skill. Maybe artificial intelligence will start to replace some activities that you do, which by the way is very likely the case. Of course, project management, if you do it in the right way, you are building this holistic view here that you are able to deal with this VUCA word, and of course, there's where you're going to be a very valuable project management, even with artificial intelligence, because if that's the case, artificial intelligence will help you to be more efficient there and more effective. But if you're not going to do that, you're going to stay in a plateau. And what happened? That might be that you just stay behind it. So project management it's a very good way to develop your skills if you do it in the right way because it will connect with a very different types of skill that you have and you are going to be able to be exposed as a project manager to several different areas of knowledge to a big range of variety. And that's one of the things that I love the most when I start to have contact with project management. I started to have contact with project management was when I was an intern even before graduating from before getting my engineering degree there because I saw that as a project manager I'm an electrical engineer. So as a project manager I start to learn saying okay I'm an electrical engineer but I started to work with projects that were engineering, procurement, and construction infrastructure, basically building substations or electrical infrastructure there. They say, oh, but now here I have contact with construction, so I need to learn some basics about construction, how you're going to do it, how do you order concrete, what's the concrete standards, what do you need to make a foundation, what are the important parameters that are going to influence that one. But then I had to deal with procurement how a procurement process work, how you're going to select a supplier, what are the risks involved with that, and I start to develop my skills. Then I say, now then I was promoted to be a project manager. Then I had someone reporting to me. So, whoa, now I'm a project manager. Now I need to lead a team, but also now I have someone reporting to me directly. So I need to be able to start having feedback, uh, organizing a calendar, basic stuff like organizing a holiday period, making sure that we can back up each other, activities, and this kind of stuff. And much more variety that I have been exposed in this probably more than 14 years that I have been working with project management. That really makes me love it because every day I can learn something different. Every day I can learn something very different types of industries, different types of companies, and so on. That's what I love about project management. And that, of course, helps me to develop more skills to face this very complex VUCA world that you have there. And nothing in this journey, of course, will be perfect, but it's important that you don't find yourself stuck into a point. So that's how project management will help you to deal with the complexity, not only in organizing a problem and aligning a goal with their team and helping to step forward, helping to take actions to move forward to achieve a goal, to solve an issue, and so on, but also if you're doing this in a right way, it will help you to continue to develop yourself. It will help you to continue to learn new tools, continue to help you to learn for different perspectives, different ways to execute a project, seeing how different companies work, different process. Like I've seen construction, I've seen manufacturing environment for like semiconductor, I've seen manufacturing environment for air suspension, I've seen manufacturing environment like for plastic connectors, for sensors. All those types of things, it helped me to learn, it helped me to grow, it helped me to gain new tools to face the types of complexity that we see in the world. And again, I'm not saying that everything is going to be perfect, but I can guarantee to you that having those project management skills developed and continuing to do that, that's for sure one of the things that will help you to face a lot of complexity that you can find in the real world, or a lot of the VUCA world, the volatility, this uncertainty, this ambiguity, because you're going to be end up not only those technical hard skills, but also leadership, teamwork. If you do it in the right way, you're going to learn finance, you're going to learn business case, how key performance indicators work inside companies, why they are important for companies and for projects, and how you can affect those key performance indicators to bring more value for companies there. So just want to give you an overview about how project management can help you to deal with complexity in your work, in your life, in your career. Remembering that's what's important. It's not make sure that you don't get stuck in a plateau. And regardless, sometimes this plateau can be more. lower level. Sometimes this plateau can be high, but it's important that you don't get stuck in those plateaus. That every time you are continue to develop yourself, because in the end, that's how you're going to continue to grow, and that's also what's going to make a difference in your career and your life and so on. Again, the content I'm discussing here today is part of the warm up for the Project Management Summit. Project Management Summit, it's an online event. It's 100% free. You only need to subscribe it. Of course, if you have questions or comments here about this VUCA word, about the complexity, how you can handle that with projects, you are free to comment in the video here, or you also are free to go to my Instagram. There I have a Q&A box that's open every day. You can ask all project management questions there. I'm going to do all my best every time to answer that in the best way as I can. And also, of course, if you subscribe for the Project Management Summit, I hope I'm going to see you there. If not, make sure that you subscribe for my YouTube channel. Every week there's more content, and also for my Instagram because daily there's more project management content that I'm triggering you to make sure that you can develop your skills. That I can help you to move away from the plateau of knowledge that we discussed here. Thank you, and I'm hoping that I'm going to see you soon. Bye.